talking about planning. As you know, Greg, we are catching up here in Pelzer. We have our new planning commission, and we're being educated on how all of that works. Anderson County has been very generous with their time in leading us through this process for the first time. And we are forming our very first Board of Zoning Appeals, and we're putting together our first zoning map in Pelzer. Many of the surrounding municipalities already have these things in place, but it's now our responsibility to catch up with everyone else and set the stage for success, for future development, and making sure that everything is as smart and goes by the book as we possibly can.
And how important is that to your growth and moving ahead?
It is very important because, as you know, in a small town that is surrounded by such rapid growth, I mean, you drive down any road around here and you're seeing just vast amounts of development. Homes just springing up, condos, apartments everywhere. It's like the secret is out, and this area of the country is where everybody's moving, apparently. I had a conversation with a gentleman who has lived all over the nation, and he and his wife said they looked at a map of the United States and they just narrowed it down. The circle just kept narrowing, and they said, okay, we want temperate weather. We like the Southeast. We want access to a major interstate. We want to be in between major cities. And they came up with this area. And so it's very desirable. Everything about this area. We already know, being from here, we know how special it is. But unfortunately, the secret's out. So everybody's coming down here and trying to find any scrap of bare land to put something on quickly and cheaply to make the most return on investment. And so I feel like it's our job as leaders of Pelzer to make sure that we maintain our identity of who we are and not just jump at the very first shiny thing that comes our way. You know, something that Pelzer has that many towns don't have is a thriving history, a long, important, interesting history full of stories that I am continuing to learn about that fascinate me, that I want to share some things with you today. But it's important that, you know, if something is built here, that it goes along with what's already here. Urban sprawl just makes a place become anywhere USA. So we want to make sure that when people come to Pelzer, they know that they're in Pelzer. And everything that we do here is specific and unique to place and to people.
And what are some of the challenges that come with this growth?
The challenges are finding that balance between, and this is new for us, you understand, finding that balance between what can and can't be done with one's land, right? I mean, it's a very sensitive subject where people say, hey, well, it's my land, I should be able to do whatever I want, and their neighbor might say, well, I don't want you to do that because I live right beside you. It's all this, finding this common ground, so to speak, the compromises, so that we have a fair and consistent and even system of rules and policies that guide us towards a smart growth. We want development. We encourage it. We just don't, we want to make sure that development is the best we can do, because we only have one shot at it.
And y'all face a unique challenge, y'all along with 78 municipalities around the state, and the 388 legislation really hampers y'all's ability to raise funding. That
is correct. And I've talked about this for years. And if you don't know about Act 388 and the restrictions and the challenges that it imposes on towns like us and Star here in Anderson County, and I think you said 78, is that right? 78 other? Right. Well, it was a law that was passed several years ago on how to differently fund schools. And there was a case that went up to, I think, the Attorney General, if I'm correct. And it was determined that if a town does not already have taxes, It cannot start having taxes. The language in that, the opinion, the ruling, the statement, whatever it was. So Pelzer is at a major disadvantage in that we've never had taxes, property taxes, town property taxes, okay? And nobody likes taxes, nobody wants taxes, but they do want services. And they do want a good-looking town, and a town that has people working for it, on behalf of it, every day and night. So we looked at the millage of all the other towns, municipalities in Anderson County, and our sister cities of Williamston and West Pelzer have some of the lowest, and I'm proud of that. But then there's us who have none. And so how do you pay for things if you don't have any money? So we've asked our representatives to help change or amend Act 388, and they have tried. But it takes a lot of people to agree. And every year we ask, and every year there's an excuse. And I'm thankful for our delegation who has fought for us in this capacity, but it's hard to change the mindset down there in Columbia, unfortunately. And we're learning about ways to hopefully try and get around that. And so it's important, and we need to have it. We have to have it. And I want it to be as low as possible. You know, that's one thing I've been doing for several years now, is trying to find other sources of revenue for the town so that we can keep fees and taxes as low to a minimum as humanly possible. Because we got a lot of folks in Pelzer who are on a fixed income, retirees and people who don't have a lot of extra money to spend, so we don't want to hurt them, you know. We don't want to do that at all. But we do want to have a town that is safe and attractive and appealing to business. So, got to figure something out.
Because the growth is coming no matter what, whether you have the money or not. I know y'all are seeing some growth. Talk a little bit about the growth y'all seen in the last several months.
Sure.
Months ahead.
Yeah, well, the growth that we are experiencing currently in Pelzer, which is a very small town of about 1,400 people, and our town limits end at the river and just over Highway 20. So, you know, a lot of folks say, I live in Pelzer, but they don't actually do. They live in the zip code, which spans far and wide over 2 counties. And I get called a lot about questions about areas that are not within the town limits. And I'd say, I'm sorry, I wish I could help you, but that's actually in West Pelzer or in the county, you know. So currently, the growth we've seen is all residential. We've seen lots bought with brand new homes. We've seen people who have bought these old mill houses and upfitted them and flipped them. And that's what I'm excited about, is when folks realize that they can get a great deal on a well-built house from the 1890s with great bones and, you know, real lumber. And spend some money on it and make it exactly the way they want it, with a nice little yard, not too big. You know, a lot of folks are downsizing these days, and an old mill house with a small yard, which is 30 minutes from everywhere you want to be in the upstate of South Carolina, is pretty appealing. And I have had friends of mine who have called me and said, hey, we're thinking of moving to Pelzer. I found this historic home. I really like it. I want to fix it up. I want to move there. It's convenient to me. It's quiet. I like the quaint town atmosphere, and should I move there? And I say, yeah, you should. Let me tell you why. Because of what it is and what it's going to become. And so we are still in the process of preparing the remaining land that is available for some form of development. We're voting to approve textile tax credits for some future development. We've learned a lot about incentives, tax incentives for historic renovation, which we're going through right now with our community building, and also these textile tax credits, which are a relatively new thing. And that means that if a developer uses a site that was once a mill, and they are approved and fill all of the checklists of what they're supposed to do, they can get 25% back from their initial investment, which is a big deal. And so there's a lot of folks out there who specialize in this, and they're going to all these little mill towns and trying to find old mill sites because they know that they can get this special incentive deal. And that's a good thing, that there is incentive to redevelop old mill sites, but at the same time, you have people who are, looking for a good deal for themselves and not necessarily for the town. So we want to make sure that the intentions are legit and that the result will be what's best for the town. Sure, we've done a lot of work at the Monkey Park, but there's so much more to be done. And the historic renovation process has been a slow one. We're learning for the first time about this process, and we've applied for the first part of the historic tax credits, and you get 45% back of your investment. So fortunately, we do have the money currently to restore that building. And let me tell you, Greg, I love history so much. I find it so fascinating. And it helps inform everyone around you as to, who we were, where we came from, why we are the way we are. It's just fascinating to me to imagine what has come before. And that building in the Monkey Park, the community building, I don't know when it was built. Nobody does. We know that it was built prior to 1910, that it was an open-air skating rink. And Williamston had one as well. And it was kind of the rage, for folks to do that back in the Victorian era, to build an open-air skating rink with a roof. And then later it was closed in, and later added a kitchen, and it was many different things. It was a skating rink, again, closed in. It was a place for the children, the mill workers, to do activities in the summertime. It's a senior center, a senior action center. And we found out that it did have a former kitchen to the left of it, if you're looking at the front, that did burn down. And because of that, we're going to be allowed to rebuild or build an addition in the same place, in the same style. But part of the stipulations of doing the historic tax credits is that you have to restore the building as close as possible to its original form. And that's going to be interesting. It's a process I cannot wait to watch and to see. And the Monkey Park is looking pretty good. The azaleas are blooming right now, and that's always a beautiful thing. But one new thing that we have voted to take care of is that there is a cemetery right beside the community building. It is known as the Wilson Family Cemetery, maybe a cousin of yours. And it's been there since who knows how long, maybe late 1700s, early 1800s. And we've been doing a lot of research, and it is, we know there are unmarked graves. And there's a lot of myth and stories around this site. And we're trying to figure out what the truth is here. It's fascinating. I hope I'm not boring you with this, but it is so interesting. I've been looking at old maps, and John Wilson Sr. immigrated from Ireland. He was born around 1745, and he came here to this area and was given or bought, or I don't know how he acquired it, but about 200 and something acres. And he did receive a charter for a public ferry in 1790. Can you believe that? And it looks like from the old maps that Highway 8 was here this whole time. And that where the Pelzer Dam is down there, was where the ferry was. And it and this place came to be known as Wilson's Ferry, South Carolina. Now, his son, John Wilson Jr., was a state legislator in Columbia. And then he was elected to the U.S. Congress 2 or 3 times in the early 1800s, 1820s. And he died in 1828 and apparently is buried in that cemetery. He represented an area known as Golden Grove, and we see that name around here on a local brewery and also a local subdivision, an area in Piedmont called Grove Station. But it was, in his biography, he is listed as born in Wilson's Ferry in the 1773 maybe. But there's some mystery because he died suddenly, and there was something strange about it. I'm not sure if it was not a funeral or something, but according to what my research, we looked at the maps and we're like, well, why wasn't he buried at the church? Where was the church around here? And it was Big Creek Baptist Church down in Williamston. And there's a whole slew of Wilsons down there. His family, his contemporaries, graves from the early 1800s. And apparently he was a member and was dismissed. He was dismissed from the Baptist church because he liked to drink a little too much. So we're not real sure about that. But here's the thing that we're trying to figure out. The gravestones are gone, and they were removed from the Wilson Cemetery. And I was told they were dumped in the Lagoon property on Courtney Street. I have been told all sorts of things about this cemetery, that it was not where people were buried, that it's where they buried the monkeys from the monkey park. I've been told that it was the Wilson family cemetery, and then when Francis Pelzer bought this plantation around 1870 and the town was formed in 1881, that the first Pelzerites were buried there who died before they built the Pine Lawn Cemetery across the way. So there's like 100 maybe graves in there, not all of which are marked. So the gravestones were removed, dumped out somewhere near our sewage ponds, somewhere on that land. And then in the early 90s, someone came in and tried to mark the graves with those crosses, the white crosses you see out there. And everybody asks me about this. They're like, what is that? Is it a military grave? Is it World War I, II? Why is it called the Monkey Park? And what is all this? And then I heard from some residents, well, we always heard it was an Indian burial ground, and that those big old rocks over there is where the chief was buried. And I thought, oh boy, how many tall tales can we mix up together in this one site? That being said, it's a fascinating story. I want to know more. And so we're using a ground-penetrating radar to locate every single grave, and we're going to mark them. And what I would love to do is to protect and preserve that burial site and to make it look really nice, and perhaps replace the chain link fence with something more period appropriate from the Victorian age, and find out the truth about the mystery of the Wilson Cemetery, and then hopefully we'll get the answers and then communicate that to people who come to the Monkey Park to enjoy the outdoors and the playground, or to the future renovated community building, and they'll know, and if they can quit asking me about it.
Well, moving into the spring and the rest of the spring and summer, what events do y'all have planned? What's going on in Pelzer?
Well, we always love our Easter egg hunts, and we've got one coming up with the Church of God on Saturday if it doesn't get rained out. Right now, in terms of events, we don't have a lot going on from the town's perspective. We do have a very small staff. My focus is on these shows that I'm producing as my so-called real job here in Pelzer, which is, I would say, is a pretty darn big event as it is.
Those boost the economy here.
Oh, yes.
Pretty significantly, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I don't, Middletown Players is separate from the town. We're not funded by the town. We don't take any money from the town. In fact, I look forward to purchasing my first business license Those are starting in May, and I will pay the town. And I can honestly say that we're the only community theater around that is not funded by the city in which it resides and also pays a business license. Most of them don't. You don't have to. But I'm going to because I think it's the right thing to do. And that being said, that we don't receive funding from Pelzer at all, not one penny. We have to make it ourselves or go find donations or grants or just find it, because all of these community theaters in the upstate are nonprofit and ticket sales do not cover the cost of what we do. People don't realize the expense that goes into a show. We typically spend between $25,000 and $40,000 per production and count on people showing up to see it so that we can at least break even or make a profit. Because really, if the profit that we make on any of these shows goes to paying off our general expenses. Like, we don't make a lot of money. We don't make any money to save. Nothing. And it's been tough coming back from the pandemic. We've still not quite built up to the attendance levels we were enjoying before that. But to answer back to your question, before that, we were consistently bringing 30,000 people to Pelzer a year, annually. Consistently, 3 years in a row. 30,000. Hard to believe, But that does make us one of the top attended locally produced theaters in the whole state of South Carolina, which is really something to be proud of. Everybody should be proud of that, not just me or the people who work here, but everyone who lives in this town. That's bragging rights, man. You've got something nobody else has. And all these towns around here, boy, they'd love to have us. They'd love to have, or not us, but something like that, Because the smart folks realize that when you bring people to your town for any reason, whether it be a theater or sporting events, anything that brings people to town, they're going to end up spending some money somehow, eating at a restaurant or buying gas. Or anybody who doesn't live here, when you say Pelzer, most of the time they're going to say, oh yeah, Milltown Players. I see plays there. And people love our shows, Greg. If you're going to do something, you might as well do it right, And that's how we've maintained our trust with our patrons, that no matter what we do, they know it's going to be good. We feature all local talent. Very proud of that. So proud of that. People come here to Pelzer, Greg, and they see a show, and it's so much fun when they're like, where are you going next? They think it's a tour. People have no idea the talent we have here, around here, in and around Pelzer, all around the upstate, and it's all local. We've got guest directors, guest designers, and we pay everybody. It's not much, unfortunately, but everybody here is paid. I had 65 1099 employees last year. Isn't that great? And so we're creating jobs through the arts, through plays, through concerts, through musicals. Plus, it's just fun, man, And once we get some restaurants, anybody out there, if you are a developer or you have an idea for a unique restaurant, please give me a call. We have some unique sites that are amazing on the river, on the Saluda River, historic sites. And 30,000 people a year could be coming to your restaurant right down the road on the river. Come on, people, give me a call. Take a chance on Pelzer. You'll be the first one, and then it will snowball, and we will truly become the destination that we know we're going to be because we're on the river, 3 miles of waterfront. We're working on a trail system. It's coming. Move over, Swamp Rabbit Trail. That's right. Thank you for bringing that up. The Saluda River Rally is coming in June. And Anderson County has a big plan for the Saluda River, and they're working on it actively. They've already done a lot. There's the Blue Way. And we keep talking about it. We talk about it every week. With Dolly Cooper Park and Powdersville, and coming on down, there's going to be something in Piedmont. West Pelzer's got something planned over there. We've already got our kayak launch, and we're talking. I'm speaking with the hydro company, trying to figure out how to get portage around our dam so we can keep on going down. You know, Anderson County's really taken the lead on the potential and the opportunities of the Saluda River, more so than Greenville County, surprisingly. That river is something else. That's the future. And we've got our Saluda River Rambler company that takes people from Piedmont down, and you get in Piedmont, come back down here to Pelzer, and Nathan Weaver, cool dude, takes care of it all. You don't have to have a kayak, you just show up. And it's very affordable. And that grows every year, every summer. So we're seeing that traffic on the river. We want to capitalize on that. We want our trail system to be on the river. We saw what it did for TR. We see what it does for everybody. But nobody has a trail system next to a river. And that's something that, you know, again, unique, specific to identity. It becomes a destination because you can't find it anywhere else. And, you know, having an interlocking trail system is not only great for tourism, it's great for the people who live here to be better connected, to get out and be active, to feel safe. I think about this all the time, and we're drawing little, you know, hand-drawn maps and talking to this person, and getting advice and trying to find the land that we need to make this dream a reality. And you know, the three mayors here, Williamson, West Pelzer, we all are in 100% agreement. The trail systems that are then connected to each other are going to be transformative. And the county's behind it. You know, we had a meeting where it's like, look, we see that you all have your trails planned, and it's going a bubble gum trail down in Belton. That's so much fun. You got something happening in Anderson, and they're like, look, we want these to be created, and then we want to connect them. So there's a county-wide trail system. And you got to have a cool name, you know. I don't know what that is, but, you know, Pelzer will have its own, but it'd be great to be part of a larger trail system with what people call the Tri-City area, even though we're not really cities. But I kind of laugh at that, but hey, it's cool. But to have that trail system and on this location by the river with great entertainment, historical renovation, possibility for some amazing restaurants on the river. If somebody would just give me a call, let's make it happen. I'm tired of waiting around. So is everybody else who comes here, because they all go somewhere else to eat. They all go to, Saluda River Grill in Piedmont, and we're very happy for them. And they tell us, they're like, we look at your show schedule and we hire more people. We put more hours on because we know they're all coming here, and they all show up at once and leave at once to catch the show. But it's exciting, and spring is always an exciting time because you feel that sense of, that spirit of renewal and new beginnings and new growth and new ideas, and it really is reinvigorating. And I feel very, very hopeful about everything that's going on. There's a lot of things in the works, and so a lot of times when folks see, like, well, how come this hasn't happened, this hasn't happened, this hasn't happened, chances are it's being worked on. Unfortunately, things move much slower than I would like. I'm a very impatient person, and and I like to see things happen quickly. But one thing we're doing for improvements is we're adding more streetlights again. And I finally got Duke Energy to respond to me and work with me, and we approved about 25 new streetlights over several streets, and I've already contacted them and said, look, when are we doing the last batch? Because the goal was by the end of this calendar year to have addressed every single street in the town of Pelzer, to say, does it need a light? Can we add a light? Let's add a light to make it safer for everybody. And that's important to people here. That's what they wanted, and so that's what we're going to give them.